I was a kid that tried to be invisible in school. I did not want to be called on. I did not want to raise my hand. I didn't want to be wrong. Popcorn reading was horrifying to me. And focusing on the social emotional health, we're trying to get these kids to have more confidence to go through the academics. And guess what? Hey, if you make a mistake, that's welcome. All right, now let's get back. Let's see where we went wrong. And let's keep building. Let's keep going.
Hey y'all, it's Danny C. Thrilled you can join me for another conversation about confidence. Whether you're making decisions to claim your confidence or hoping to instill confidence in those that you influence, like raising humans, these conversations help you examine the options available and how to reach decisions that allow you to create your life rather than just live by default. That's when real confidence happens, when you take authority over your own life and teach others to do the same. That's why I'm so excited about today's guest. I am joined by Lauren Penn, a child creativity advocate and owner of Apogee North Texas, a hybrid homeschool program inspired by the Finnish model of education, one that prioritizes emotional intelligence, real world application, and how each child learns. So, Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, I really would love to start with your story. What originally made you question the traditional education model?
Oh my gosh. I mean, there's so many things. I could go back and there were so many moments, but initially, I think it was when my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016, and I wanted to be there for her. We moved back to California. And because what was going on there with the schools, I prioritized that, my kids aren't going to go. I'm just going to stay home and they're going to start with me. So I started with my two oldest kids, homeschooling them from there. We were there for 9 months and then came back to Texas. So, yeah.
Wow. So what felt most misaligned about standardized education? Like from that, it's you touch on one of the things that is so important to all moms. In fact, there was a study in the New York Times that women would take a 40% pay cut if they could have flexibility in their jobs. What I'm hearing you say is like the school system's lack of flexibility is problematic as well. Would you say that that's one of the things that started the misalignment started there?
Yeah, I mean, initially, it was just that I wanted more time with my kids. So when I
Mhm.
was growing up in California, and I don't know if it's still like this, but our kindergartens were 8:30 to 11:50, and then you went home with mom. And when my oldest, it was time for her kindergarten, I'm searching and everything is 7:30 to almost 3 o'clock every single day. And I didn't want to lose that time with her.
Mm.
So we found a private kindergarten initially and put her in there. I also didn't want, since we were going back from Texas to California often because we have family and friends there still, I didn't want to have to tell administration, oh, here's what we're doing. We're going here now. And I still wanted control over my family and my life and what we do. I didn't want any oversight. So that was the initial seeking out something different.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because it's so true is like, especially when you're dealing with, healthcare family members or you want to take vacations, we spend so much time at work, we miss our children growing up. That's a big part of my story. And the school system's inflexibility is one of those things. I mean, one of my friends talks about how she has to like write a dissertation to check her kid out to go to the doctor and tell them everything that's happening. Or if she just her daughter, wants her daughter home early, it's like, wait, this is my child.
Yeah. I mean, in 2018, I was close with the principal when my kids were in public school, and she called me when we were gone and said, "Hey, where are you? What are you guys doing?" And I thought that was super intrusive. I'm like, "It's my sister's wedding. We're at my sister's wedding, and we will take the unexcused absences. I have no idea why you're calling me right now."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. Wow. Well, that it shows, demonstrates, what we're going to talk about today is, how we need to look at the school system and education from a different lens. And so I want to touch on this Finnish model because not a lot of people know what that is. So, it's, I think in Finland, I read they actually have the highest academic scores out of any country. And they also are a very happy country. And the way that Apogee teaches is the same as this, is that, like, the guides or the teachers stay with the kids for an average of 3 years. So they learn their learning styles, they learn their personality, and they're able to help kind of almost mold them into, their gifting and how they learn. So can you take us a little bit through of, that system? I know I just explained a high level and then how Apogee is able to lean into that?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because they out starting at 8 years old, they outperform the American system over and over and over again. And yeah, okay, when kids are 5 to 7, American models may outperform, but that's not when it matters. So, in the Finnish model, they, prioritize more the social emotional, um, learning and of the children. That's what they focus on. And they also focus on outdoor time and play and imagination and developing these skills before they even introduce the traditional academics. Traditional academics tend to happen around 8 years old when they start pushing the reading a little bit more and the math, but then the kids have a solid foundation in these essential life skills, like self regulation, resilience, relationship building, problem solving, things that are completely missing in the American system.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You know what I like about this is that really for those formative years, 0 to 7, when identity is really being imprinted on humans, is that you really focus on those pieces because I know that a lot of kids with the standardized school system, with just the way that society has evolved is that we are told to leave our identity behind. It's not okay to be who you are and fit into this mold and go forth. And so I really love to hear that, from 0 to 7, that's the focus because that's a solid foundation. You can teach the other stuff, but that stuff is like imprinted. And I know as an adult who's had to go back and confront that it would be nice if I had like, it's okay to be, creative and stare at butterflies in left field. So how does emotional development integrate with academics?
Um, okay, so that's a little basically their confidence in so mm, okay, hold on.
You were talking about playing outdoors and stuff, so I like
Yeah, no,
positive.
playing outdoors and the essential skills like self-regulation, resilience, relationship building, problem solving directly improve their academic performance because they're more confident in attacking problems. And when they don't know something, they're not afraid and they don't hide themselves. I was a kid that tried to be invisible in school. I did not want to be called on. I did not want to raise my hand. I didn't want to be wrong.
Mhm.
Popcorn reading was
Oh,
horrifying to me. I would read ahead and make sure I knew all the words. Um, and focusing on the social emotional health, we're trying to get these kids to have more confidence to go through the academics. And guess what? Hey,
mhm.
if you make a mistake, that's welcomed. All right, now let's get back. Let's see where we went wrong and let's keep building. Let's keep going.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that because mistakes are the greatest teacher, but again, standardized school system, it's almost a punishment. I mean,
Yeah.
I think, again, going back to another example is a mom, her daughter, talked in the hallway, and, like, do we not wanna teach our kids to be able to have conversations and be social? And so she had to go, like, run laps at recess. Like, what is this?
Yes. I mean, I have one of my kiddos, we'll call her a strong-willed, just full of life, very gregarious, almost a person that I strive to be. I'm like, I gotta be more like her. And she had a summer program with a public school teacher. She was 4, and that teacher at the end of it wanted to have a conversation with me. So I had a meeting with her, and she told me that I needed to tear down my 4-year-old and build her back up because she was going to be a problem in the public school system. And again, another red flag of like, okay, that's not something that, a 4-year-old. And so I ended up going to the Montessori school thinking because I'm not one of those parents that accepts poor behavior. That is unacceptable. And I am willing to change and work with my child on that. So I went to her Montessori school and asked, hey, is she giving you a hard time? Are you guys just afraid to tell me what's going on? And they looked at me like I had 3 heads. What are you talking about? She's a leader. She's very independent. She gets all her works done. We have no problem with her here. And I think what ended up happening is the rigidity of the public school summer program. She didn't know how to adapt. She was like, I'm used to having freedom and I have to sit here and I have to, color, even down to the teacher wanted them to color a certain way. And she was like,
Wow.
I am not with this. I want my freedom. So she couldn't behave in that environment. And that was another, red flag of, okay, we got to be doing something different with my kids.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing that when you turn learning into something that's relational and not this, like, transaction that, things start to happen. Wow. So, I think we touched on this when we were talking about the Finnish model is that at Apogee, the guides stay with the kids, like, the classrooms are bundled, like, I'll get this wrong, but, like, 7 to 10 or, 11 to 14 or something like that, you can correct me, but talk a little bit about the psychological and emotional development of having that continuity of the same person kind of taking care of them.
Yes, I mean, ideally, if the staff stays on, because we know, life happens, but it builds that community relationship with the guide. Actually, they've studied this in traditional schools and found that it creates a more stable learning environment because trust has been built. It builds confidence because the child now trusts that adult and knows the expectations, and it reduces the anxiety and maximizes the instructional time. Not to mention the stronger, deeper relationships with the parents. There's a better family partnership, and you're not restarting every year with somebody new, and the teacher knows how to approach the child because they've been with them for years.
Wow, that's great. So it's kinda like that, secure attachment and building a foundation of confidence when
Absolutely.
you're young. So that's excellent. So one of my favorite features of this, school program is that you introduce entrepreneurial thinking even at the youngest ages, which I know to a lot of people sounds a little radical, but as somebody who's, been on the entrepreneurial journey, when I was 10, I went door to door selling necklaces that I made at home, and then now here I am, like, just done entrepreneurship so many times and can tell that that's where I was always meant to be. Um, you guys really foster that, and which is amazing because in the capitalist society, that those are the people who win. So can you talk a little bit about how you do that starting even just with a young age?
Yeah, I mean, at the root of that, they're learning that they can do hard things and that it's okay to fail. And we encourage, hey, that's where we learn and that's where we keep going. And everything is figure outable. I mean, in growing your own business, you're constantly like, oh, that was the wrong choice. And I mean, for me, growing up in the traditional public school system, I'll fail, and then it'll take me a minute to, recoup and be like, "Okay, hey, that's okay. We gotta keep pushing." And if it wasn't for the way my parents raised me, and honestly, I'm married to a Gen X who's very much suck it up, push through. If I didn't have those 2, um, guides, guiding me through what I'm doing now, I don't think that I would have kept going. I didn't have the confidence and didn't learn at a young age, like, make the mistakes. Yes, make the mistakes and then get up and keep going. So, that's what we do for our kids. And even my 5-year-old, so I've got 4. My 14-year-old and 12-year-old have started their own businesses and are working on those, but now my son's, trying to figure out, "Okay, where am I valuable? Okay, I can do this. Well, what if I made some cookies and then I sat out on the curb and I could sell these things?" And, he's got he's got the goal of, earning money for a boat. So that's a big goal, but we encourage him, "Hey, it's gonna take a long time and you're gonna make some mistakes, but if you keep building, you'll get there." And so,
Yeah.
right now he's trying to figure out where he can go sell that mom and dad are okay with him going and selling his baked goods,
Oh,
to make
wow.
some money.
Wow, that's I love there's a couple of things there, and, like, one of them is, we tend to dream small, and even I would say that, people who are raised by baby boomers, a little bit Gen X, is that, it's like, don't reach too high, don't set the goals too high, so I love that he's going for a boat at 5 years old because going for that goal will fill all of the the holes in between, that's amazing. I think this is really a great illustration of, like, a lot of people might say, "Oh my gosh, you're trying to turn all these kids into little miniature CEOs." And we have a bad connotation with that, but really it's about capability and about the resilience because it's that willing to dust yourself off and learn from the mistake and get back up and how you react to it rather than being like, "Okay, if I make a mistake, I'm going to be punished." And corporate America actually, lives and dies by those types of rules. And so we need more entrepreneurs showing up and saying, "This is what it looks like to have real leadership and drive a team and bring people in and let them show up in their giftings." And then we're all just on equal playing fields doing an awesome job. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's where they build their self-trust and they're willing to keep going and keep trying even when there's failure. They get more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that's something that our millennial generation, as we're raising our kids, I think we've lost that a little bit in that, and I'm guilty of it too. I am
yeah.
1000% guilty of it too, is that we want our children to avoid pain at all costs when really it's to their detriment.
Yeah.
We need them to be uncomfortable. We need them to experience failure and kind of sit in it. And hey, that's okay. Now let's get up and let's get going.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. So I want to shift gears just a little bit. And you and I have talked about offline about, the moment that smartphones came into our lives and how it, shifted, the neurology, the emotional output, sociology of children. And now we have AI coming out. And so I think, we underestimated the impact of that. And so what is your opinion, or let's just talk about like, what did you see when that transition happened that we kind of failed at? And then now what can we do to protect ourselves with AI, our children with AI?
I mean, what we've even noticed in our own center is the lack of attention span that a lot of kids have, and um, that I mean, it's really hard to get anybody to do anything when you don't have that attention span. And you feel for these kids because you don't feel you're like, this is not their fault, and
Mhm.
I wouldn't even say it's the parents' fault too, because it's all kind of an experiment, right? And so on the youngest level, it's trying to get these kids off screens. And some I'll give my 5-year-old as an example. He's been homeschooled the whole time, but we do have a TV in the house.
Mm.
And since going to Apogee, and he's going to Apogee, no access to TV, he is now pulled away from even wanting that. He's wanting to focus on other skills. He wants to do puzzles and play games or just be outside and dig in the dirt. He's not coming home running to that TV. And I feel like his emotional state, his self regulation is completely different. And we've noticed it in some of our kids going to the center, their changes. Kids that would not sit down and do any sort of book curriculum, but because changes have been made at school and at home, they're now willing to sit and they're asking questions and they're more interested in the work we're doing. And I would have never believed it unless I actually saw it happening. And that's just with the littles. But then even with the teens, we're going through health is wealth right now. And we're having them reflect on their own cell phone usage. So when they get in, they're looking at, okay, they're not allowed to have phones during the time, but when they get in, they can check their screen time from the previous day. And then we all have a discussion about it and an assessment. And okay, well, how'd you sleep? Do you think that correlated to the screen time you had? When did you turn it off? Um, and it's just been awesome the conclusions that they're drawing for themselves. That we're not having to lead them. They feel it, they know it. And even my oldest, weeks off where we're like, "Hey, we're just gonna put it down," and she's almost relieved, that we do that, and her engagement with the family is different, and she's outside playing with everybody, and that's actually something we've noticed on campus is that we have teens that are actually still playing. They're still on the jungle gym running around, they're playing tag, they're wanting to be involved. It's almost shocking. We have a staff member that's a former public school teacher, and every day she comes in, she's like, "This is incredible. This is amazing. I have 2 teens of my own, and I don't see this. Like, this is
Wow.
I love what's happening here."
Oh my gosh, that's so great because they say that, like, when my daughter asked me to, like, play Barbies or play something, I struggle so much because 'cause I'm just like, "What do I do?" And they say that the public school system, by the time kids are 5, they've, like, coached the creativity out of them so that's why the play gets so hard as an adult. You can't even shift that place in your mind. So to hear that teenagers are doing that and that they're comfortable and confident in that says a lot about preserving sense of self, preserving identity, and allowing that creative space for just, like, I can build something out of nothing. That's amazing.
Absolutely. I
Oh,
mean, I have trouble with screen time myself, but I have these conversations with my kids and that,
mhm,
"Hey, here are the limits that I'm putting on myself. I'm gonna plug it in next to the front door, and I'm not gonna look at it, and I'm gonna turn off the sound, and this is what I'm doing." Because you can't expect the kids to do what you say do what you say if you're not modeling the behavior. And I wish I would have clued into that earlier because there are a lot of things that you're like, "Oh, I don't want my kid to have these habits that I have." But then you have to
mhm.
show them how you're working towards being better as well. So the phone is something I have really struggled with and something that I'm actively telling my kids, "Hey, here are the problems, here are the signs, and here's what I'm doing about it." So I don't also fall victim to this stuff.
Yeah, that's such great modeling because I definitely struggle with that. And, the research around I think, there's a book called The Anxious Generation, and they
Mhm.
talk about all the data where, it's 139% of kids between the ages of 18 and 24 have anxiety and depression, and all of it's because they've just lived on a screen. They don't, getting outside their house is not like, they don't even wanna drive, get their driver's license. And so the guardrails that we didn't put up as parents when smartphones came out, and here is the result. And even like our generation, where I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 21, because that's just as they were coming out, and it was the little
Yeah.
Nokia with the black and white screen. But that generation still has 100 and something percent anxiety and depression because we were in our formative adult years. We were just on screens all of the time, and so now we have AI coming out, and this is a whole other ballgame, where, you can basically outsource your creativity, your thinking, all of that stuff, and just if somebody says, "Write a paper," you just type in, "Hey, I need to write a paper about this," boom, and instead of taking the time to become the expert at what you do. And so looking at hindsight, the guardrails that we should have put around screens, what advice do you have for parents around AI?
I mean, and I don't mean to harp on parents because we're tired and we've lost that village, and I get it. And guess what? I am not doing it perfectly either. And I feel like what we're doing with AI at Apogee is we're constantly trying to have these conversations, and it's an ongoing, okay, now we have to talk about it in this way. We have to talk and again, it's the adults have to model the behavior as well. When I have friends, and I'm guilty of this too, where we're outsourcing our thinking constantly and we're on AI and our children are seeing, "Oh, well, mom does it, so then I can do it." When you're trying to brainstorm and you're like, "Oh, I have to bring an appetizer to this party I'm going to. Let me type in an appetizer to bring." We're teaching the kids that, okay, let's outsource everything to AI. Um,
Mhm.
so it's again bringing partnering with the parents, having these conversations in our on our campus, but it's an ever evolving process because there is no outline. And so we're trying to get the kids to think about their futures and, okay, how can you partner with AI and use it as a tool, but don't let it run your life.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's the key sentence right there is partnership, and use it as a tool, don't let it replace you. And it is still so important to have kids, and even like, I'm building a team. And so where I'm working right now is saying like, okay, I want you guys to show up in your gifting and the things that you know how to do, and you can leverage AI to do your job faster or to help you do the project management pieces of it, which is an amazing, amazing thing that we now have access to. But don't let it replace, like, if it builds you a landing page, question it, like, use your expertise. And so that's the thing to drive home, I think, is, parents, how are you using AI? I love the example that you gave. And then how can you use it better? And we need to be asking those questions and then teaching it to our children.
Yes, well, and again, that brings it back to even on the lowest level, on the youngest kids, we're getting them to build their empathy, their critical thinking, their
Yes.
complex communication, collaboration, their problem solving, the lifelong learning and adaptability that AI's not doesn't have that capability. Those are human skills, you know? So, and in those ways, when you build those, you put these humans far ahead, I think, of their peers.
Yes. Yes, because that's exactly what we're seeing with the Gen Z is that they missed out on that whole character building because it was, "Oh, just Google it." And so now it's like there's like we're having to retrain as AI is coming out and saying like, "Whoa, look at things a little bit differently here." So it's really crazy what history has taught us, but now we have an opportunity to kind of course correct, with programs like what Apogee is doing.
Absolutely.
So now I wanna kind of shift again and really talk about, you've been a working mom, I'm a working mom, and we started this conversation talking about flexibility. And I think Apogee offers a couple of different programs, like you can be you give curriculum and they can do it at home, or if you need that space, you can take your kids and to a brick and mortar building, and then they can work with guides, and then some of the curriculum is done at home. So can you talk a little bit about how this can fit working moms and how the flexibility will strengthen family systems?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm an advocate for parents just being able to pull their child out of the system. It doesn't have to be Apogee. Apogee is one option, and especially where we live in North Texas, there are so many incredible options. You have programs that are a la carte where they have a schedule and you can plug your kid into 1 or 2 classes a week, attend, and then do the rest of the homeschooling at home. You have online programs where kids can show up online into a live classroom, or you have self paced, independent, accredited learning online. Or you can do what most of our generation knows homeschooling to be. And here's the book curriculum, and you can teach your child to independently go through it, or you can be there as a guide to help, or you can do the instruction yourself, which I think is what keeps a lot of parents from doing it. Is they're like, I can't be a teacher. I can't. I'm already my child's teacher as a parent. I don't want to be their teacher as well.
Right.
And that's what I really want to help parents figure out is okay, well, what works best for your schedule and the type of parent you want to be and are, and your busy schedule as a working parent. Like, it is so doable now where it
Mm.
wasn't even 5 or 6 years ago. But at Apogee, we have 2 day and a 3 day program. We have a curriculum that you can plug into with us, or you can bring your own. We have a lot of homeschoolers that really like the curriculum that they're using. The kids really like what they're doing, and they know how to do it independently. And when the kids get stuck on something, we do have guides and tutors there that are, oh, okay, I see you got this wrong. Hey, let's get the manipulatives out. Let's see where it went wrong. Let's try and figure this out together. But a lot of our kids just do a lot of their work independently, and
Wow.
they are capable. And again, I came from the public school, my husband came from the public school, and I would never think that that was possible, which
Mhm.
kind of sounds silly because as an entrepreneur, aren't you constantly figuring it out? Aren't
Yeah.
you constantly teaching yourself like, "Oh, okay, this is the right way to do it. All right, I got it." And
Mm.
we have all the tools at our fingertips with the computers, you know? Um,
Yes.
so so the fact that we think that these kids can't do it is just not accurate. They have all the capabilities. They just need to be given the chance to be able to do it.
Exactly, exactly. Oh my gosh, I love that because, yeah, you're right. Entrepreneurship and even, like, being in a C-level in a corporation or, even a manager, like, a lot of times you have to make it okay to say, "I don't know," and that I'm gonna figure this out. But instead, because of the public school system, we put on this mask and we say like, "Oh, I got this figured out." And then that's when things start to implode.
Well, even as a parent, think about you as a parent. I thought I was going to be one way, and I am completely different than I turned out to be, and it all had to do with learning from the people that I admired and figuring it out.
Yeah,
And I'm still figuring it out, and I'm still changing, and I'm still troubleshooting. But that's exactly what this is. You're teaching that process, and it's okay to fail, but you got to keep going.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, growth, if you said you're still learning. I'm still learning as an entrepreneur, as a mom, as everything. And like the willingness to continue learning, that's how growth happens. It's when we stop. So that it's fantastic that your program teaches that. So how many kids are there in each, grade level, and kinda take me through how the classroom looks?
So we can have up to 12 in the 5 to 7. We just think that that ratio works really well. The 5 to 7 is more Montessori style. So again, we're getting into that independent learning right off the bat. And we keep it at a lower ratio so that the kids do get that one-on-one time when needed. And you kind of build that culture from there that, hey, we're here for a reason. You got to get your works done and your responsibilities done, but also we're here to have fun and play and encourage each other. The 8 to 12 is a larger group. We've had up to 18 in that group. And that guide runs that class like a well-oiled machine. The kids know what their responsibilities are. They know what their jobs in the classroom are, and they come in ready to work. It's actually incredible to see. And then in the teen group, since a lot of it's more individualized, we're looking more for, okay, who are you and what do you think you're interested in? And what can we pull for you to get you to where you want to be? And hey, it may
Mhm.
not work out. You may think we've got one who's really interested in cosmetology. Okay, so we had her call the lady who does her hair to mentor her and say, okay, what was your career path and how did you get there? And we'll see if in the end she likes that process or maybe she wants to hop to something else. So because it's very individualized. We keep that group more as a family, like a group of 10.
Wow, I love that. You're teaching them how to, like, seek out mentors already because that's I mean, that was a gap for my generation, and it's I having done internship programs now in the corporations that I've worked for, it's so great to see that you're fostering teaching the kids how to reach out for that. I love that.
Oh yeah, I mean, because I you know, went to college and I changed my major 3 times and I didn't know who I was or what I wanted to do and kinda
Same.
just tried a bunch of different things, and we wanna allow the kids to try different things and get a taste for different things and find their own path and learn who they are in their teens. You know,
Yes.
and not necessarily be overprogrammed to where you can't think about what you're doing or who you are.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. So, every generation gets a label from the media. We've got, the greatest generation coined by Tom Brokaw, and they were held in a positive regard. And then we started, we got the boomers, and they all categorize the generation before, after them as lazier than they were. And so now looking where the generation that's coming up, some of the kids that are in class, if we fast forward 20 years, what kind of adults do you think this model produces, like the Apogee way or the homeschool kind of Finnish model? Tell me a little bit about your thoughts, predictions there.
My hope for is we're gonna find happy kids, and in my book, that's success. I think, the ones that don't outsource their brains to AI and the ones that are gonna keep their long attention spans, by cutting the screens, and the ones that develop a love for learning are the ones that are gonna truly separate themselves from their peers. The critical thinkers, the ones that want to keep improving. You know, they're not satisfied with staying the same and are looking for, okay, how do I keep growing in this situation? That's what I'm hoping that this fosters and grows. And so far, that's what I'm seeing, and it's really exciting.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that you started the very first thing was happiness because, my journey, like I had a brand called the Happy Life Agenda, and I've had to make a switch because we don't generationally believe in happiness. And it's because of some of the things we talked about right here is that it's been, kind of sold to us for a very long time that the path to happiness is just money and power and, the grind. And so, but you're illustrating here that it's the thing that some of us are finding later in life. It's identity and being able to show up as yourself. I love that.
I mean I never thought I was going to start an education center. That was not anything that I thought I was gonna do, and looking back again, God had me on this path and learning in all the different ways that I searched for education in each one of my kids. You know, I have 4 kids. They all need something different. And every year it was adapting to, okay, what each kid needs. And I think going through that process led me to what Apogee is and what I'm doing now. And I am so passionate about it. But this was not something that I could learn in school ever. It had to be a life path of my experiences, that definitely led to this.
Oh my gosh, I love that because that's exactly how we need to think. So it's like filling through and looking back and seeing like how all the pieces suddenly fit together. So it's amazing. Well, thank you, Laura, so much for Lauren. Sorry. For sharing everything that you've shared with us today and like giving us a lot of hope for our kids and the future generation and even working moms, because I know that's a big part of my audience, is that there is a way to educate your child and take care of all of the things that make them a whole human and have the flexibility so that you can enjoy those moments because they're so fleeting. And that's what I love most since I met Lauren is just knowing that there's flexibility and opportunity out there different than what we thought.
Yes, absolutely. And if you're local to North Texas, I'm happy to meet with parents that are struggling and that they are seeing some red flags that they don't like in the public school, or they're like, you know what, I think my kid needs something different. And I really want to encourage parents and help parents. That's my ultimate goal, is to help anybody. Apogee may not be the program for you, and that is totally fine. But let me see what I can pull and help guide you on your journey so that you don't feel like you're alone, that you don't feel like you're doing this by yourself. And you also don't have regrets, thinking, oh, they're fine, they're fine, they're fine. I can't at this point pull them out and teach them myself. There are so many options locally that you don't have to.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I can speak from experience. I actually met Lauren through, like, trying to just learn about Apogee, and we meet regularly to just have a conversations like this, and she really does an amazing job of helping you just parse out the options because as she said, it's not I call her the child creativity advocate because that's what we talk a lot about is, like, what do our kids need just to, grow and be awesome humans, and so
Mhm.
she's at Marty B's in, Bartonville, so, coffee house, I think sometimes
Yes.
you can catch her, usually have the Apogee hat on.
Yes.
Great coffee chats.
Yes. Mondays.
On Mondays, okay, awesome. So if you're ever in a Marty B's coffee shop in Bartonville, look for Lauren and say hello. And, I wanna end with this. Confidence isn't about control. It's about clarity, alignment, and choosing systems that honor how humans actually thrive. And that's exactly what we talked about today, but we're starting with our children in this conversation. So if you love today's episode, please tune in again next week, leave a review on your favorite platform, and share this with a friend. And until next time, I'm Danny C. Thank you again, Lauren, for joining us, and I'll see y'all
Thank
next week.
you.